All right, morning pre-calc. Today we're looking at radical equations or square root equations. Okay. So in order to solve radical equations, one, we have to isolate the square root. We have to get this square root all by itself. Can't have it on both sides. You can't have it with another piece on the same side. All right, so then we're going to square both sides, and then we have to check. So isolate the radical. Get this all by itself. Square both sides, check. Okay, so this is not all by itself. Okay, I got a plus 1 over here, so I have to subtract 1 the other way. So I have x minus 1 equals the square root of x plus 5. Now this radical is all by itself. Okay. Now I'm going to, rule number 2, we're going to square both sides. Okay. And so when we square the radical, remember, the radical cancels out. So I'm left with x plus 5. Okay. And then when I square this, x minus 1 quantity squared, we have our x squared minus 2x plus 1. You're probably asking, how did that happen? Okay. Remember, when you do your box, my x minus 1, my x minus 1. There's a little rule here when you do this. I'm going to multiply things out with our grid, and then I'll show you the rule, explain the rule. So I have my x squared, my 1x minus 1x, minus 1x, and then plus 1. So notice, okay, x times x squared, right, x squared, put it down. Then I have a negative 1x and a negative 1x, so it's negative 1 times this x twice. There's 2 of them. Negative 1 times x, negative 1 times x, negative 1 times x. There's 2 of them, negative 2x. And then finally, negative 1 times negative 1, so negative 1 squared. Okay, so when you're looking at something like this, okay, you can do x squared, negative 1 times x twice, so that's negative 2x, and then negative 1 squared, so 1. Okay, we can do another one real quick. I'll show you. It's fast, it's easy. So we're going to do 2x plus 3 squared. I'll do it here first. So I have 2x times 2x is your 4x squared. 2x times 3 is plus 6x. 3 times 2x is another plus 6x. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So notice 2x squared, 2x squared, 4x squared. Then it's multiply these two together. 2x times 3, and there's 2 of them. 2x times 3 is 6, but you're going to have 2 of them, so that gives you 2 6s, so it's plus 12x, and then 3 squared, plus 9. Here it is. 2x times 2x is your 4x squared. Then it's 2x times 3 and a 2x times 3. So there's 2 of them. And then it's 3 times 3 is 9. 3 squared is 9. So that's your little pattern. Okay. All right, let's finish solving. So we have to, remember, solving a quadratic here. So we're going to have to subtract x and subtract the 5. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. So I subtracted the x and I subtracted the 5. So I have x squared minus 3x minus 4. Okay. Now I can factor. X and x, 4 and a 1, minus 4 plus 1. I'm running out of room. So I have x equals 4 and a negative 1. All right, so we have our solutions. Well, these are our possible solutions. So now I have to check. We have to make sure we can keep our answers. So always go back to the original. Okay, always go back to the original. Okay, so I'm going to start by plugging in 4. So if I put a 4 here, put a 4 here. So 4 plus 5 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. So all of this right here is a 3. Plus 1 is 4. So 4 keeps. Let's check negative 1. So negative 1 there. Negative 1 here. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. Square root is 2. 1 plus 2 is not negative 1. So negative 1 gets tossed. So 4 is our only answer. Okay. All right. Next one. 2. Step 1, isolate the square root. Well, there's a 2 in front of the square root. It's isolated because it does not say 2 plus square root of 3 minus x or 2 minus. 2 next to the radical, a number right next to the radical means 2 times the radical. So this is isolated. Don't move it. If you move it, you're dealing with fractions. You have to divide both sides by 2. Then you have to deal with a fraction. Why the heck would you want to do that? You can square this. You square the entire thing. So right now, this is isolated. Do not divide both sides by 2. You may see some folks do that online. Just say to yourself, what the heck are you doing that for? You don't need to. Okay? Just square. It's easy to do. So x squared equals. So now when I square this, you're squaring a product. It's easy to square a product. So it's 2 squared and then times whatever this is. Well, radical squared, you drop the radical. 3 minus x. Okay? All right. So now I have to distribute the 4. So 12 minus 4x, and I'll set it to 0. And then I'll factor. What are the numbers? That's right, 6 and 2. So plus 6 minus 2, so x equals a negative 6 and a positive 2. Okay, now we have to go check. Remember, always check the original. I'll start with negative 6. So if I put a negative 6 here, remember the original was without the squares. So I put negative 6 right here. I'm going to tell you this right now. I have negative number equal to a positive radical. Can you ever take the square root and end up with a negative number? No, negative 6 doesn't work. Okay, so toss out negative 6. Okay, and if you're not sure, plug in your negative 6 right there. Okay, 3 minus a negative is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6, not negative 6. Okay, so let's check out 2. Put a 2 there. Okay, so 3 minus 2 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1 times 2 is 2. 2 equals 2. So 2 works. Okay, all right, did that in your head. 3 minus 2 is 1. So square root of 1 is 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so 2 is our only keeper. All right, next one. Start by isolating the radical. See, now I have another 2 radical x here, but it's 2 times. That's not the problem. Plus x is the problem. So this plus x has to be moved to the other side. So I'm going to move this that way, this way. Okay, so I have 6 minus x equals 2 square root of x minus 3. Okay. Don't divide. If you divide both sides by 2, you're going to have a fraction. Why the heck would you want to do that? Okay. If you divided both sides by 2, this is what it would look like. 6 minus x over 2 equals x minus 3. Why the heck would you want to square a fraction? That's too much work. That'll just get you confused even more. Don't do this. No, 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 no. We are ready to square right now. This is easy to square. I'll do the easy side first. So it's 2 squared times, and because there's a quantity here, you need your parentheses, and then squaring the radical cancels it out. All right, I'm going to use our little trick. Remember, 6 squared. Then we multiply the inside, and there's going to be 2 of them. 6 times negative x is negative 6x, but there's going to be 2 of them. So there's 2 negative 6x's, so that's a minus 12x, and then negative x squared. So I have that plus x squared. There. Okay. Let you digest that. All right. Now, I'll distribute the 4. So I have 4x minus 12. Then I want to write this side in proper order. Then we get the positive x squared, so that comes first, minus 12x plus 36. All right, let's see what it's saying. What do we have? Our set it to 0. I'm going to move the 4x, so I'll subtract the 4x, add the 12. Subtract the 4x, add the 12. So I have x squared minus 16x plus 48 equals 0. Okay. Now we have to factor. So x and x. All right, I need factors of 48 that will add to a 16. The reason why I'm saying add to a 16, because this is a positive 48. If this was a negative 48, I would say subtract to 16. Okay, so 4 times 14. No, 3 times... Four times 12. 4 and a 12. Oh, I had to think about that one for a minute. All right, both negative. 4 times 12 is 48. And they add them up, it's 16. Oh, what am I doing? Here, let me slide this up. So I have x equals 4 and a 12. So remember, these are your potentials. Now we have to check. All right, so check. Start with a 4. Let's see, I'll put the 4 right here. It's getting a little messy on my paper here. Put the 4 right there. I'll put the 4 right there. Alrighty, what do we have here? So 4 minus 3 is 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 4 is 6. So 4 works. That works so far. Now let's check out 12. Let me scribble this out. 12. 12. Okay, 12 works. So let's check out 12. See if 12 works. So 12 minus 3 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 12 is not 6. So 12 doesn't work. So 4 is our only keeper. All right, finally. So those are the nice ones. You're going to see one or two of these that look like this on the homework. There's two radicals involved. So how the heck do you deal with something like this? Okay, first of all, you can't combine them because they're not, they're different radicals. Okay, so they're not the same term, so I cannot combine them. Okay, we have to still do our same rules. We do have to square both sides. Problem is, in this case, we're going to have to do it twice. No big deal. Now, in order to make our life easier, I could start squaring right now. Okay, I would do a big giant box and I would start squaring this thing out. Okay, you could. I think it'd be easier to get this big monster one all by itself and then square both sides. Okay, and now when I get this one all by itself, I think what I'm going to do is I will, I'm going to take this, move it to the right, and I'm going to take the positive 2 and move it to the left. So it's going to look like this. 2 radical x. I'm going to do this all in one step. I'm going to take the positive 2, move it to the left, so it makes it a negative 2, equals. I'm going to take this negative quantity and move it to the right, so it makes it a positive. Okay. And now I'm going to square both sides. Okay. So taking care of the hard side here, I square this. That's right, we're just left with 3x minus 11. Okay. Now here, I have to square this. Yes, you can do your box. You can do your box by yourself if you don't trust your work. Trust your math. You can do this. You can set that up yourself. Okay. Remember, square this. So when you square this, you have a 4 times x. And now we multiply the 2 together. And when you multiply the 2 together, you're going to have 2 of them. Remember, you're going to multiply these 2 together, and you're going to have 2 of them, those 2 spots right there. So 2x, 2 square root of x times a negative 2 is a negative 4, but you're going to have 2 of them, so it's a negative 8 radical x. And then you just have plus 4, negative 2 squared. Okay? So now I still have a radical x in here. So now we have to isolate this radical. Okay, so let's get this one isolated. But before we get this one isolated, let's, yeah, we're ready to get it isolated. So when I get this isolated, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this negative 8 radical x, I'm going to move it to the right. So I'm going to take this, move it to the right, and I'm going to take all of this and go to the left. Okay, so I'll have my 8 radical x on this side as a positive. So then I'm going to subtract the 3x from the 4x, and I'm going to add 11 to the 4, so plus 15. There. Now this looks just like all of our other problems, because we had to square twice. Okay? All right, so squaring both sides now. Again, it's a double square problem. No big deal. So 8 radical x squared is 64x. And squaring this out, remember, x squared. Then x times 15 twice, so that's plus 30x. Plus 15 squared is 225. Okay. All right. I know the numbers are big. So we're going to subtract 64 from both sides. So it's x squared minus 34x plus 225 equals 0. And now I can factor this. Okay. Okay, all right. 9 and 25. Okay, there. I'll make it so I can use big numbers on the video. 9 times 25 is 225, and then when you add these together, you have your 34, both negative. So we have potential answers of a 9 and a 25. Those are our potential answers. All right, let's see which one we keep. We'll start with the 9. Go back up here to my original. Squeeze in a 9 there. Squeeze in a 9 here. Okay. Square root of 9 is 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 9 is 27. Minus 11 is 16. So square root of 16 is 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. 9 works. All right, let's check out 25. All right, square root of 25 is 5. Times 2 is 10. All right, 3 times 25 is 75. Minus 11 is 64. Square root of 64 is 8. Well, look at this. 10 minus 8 is 2. They're both keepers. Alrighty. All right, radical equations. Okay. So you'll see 1 or 2 that are this on the paper. Everything else are your straightforward ones. Yes, the paper starts off very easy. Then it gets into the more challenging ones. All right. Good luck.